During this session, we're going to jump into the topic of AI, speaking about balancing innovation, integrity, and impact to find AI that works for you. So I'm pleased to welcome Anuj Anand from Ausenco, the mining, minerals and oil partner company, giant, I should say. Anuj, thank you for joining us. Good to see you here this morning. Can we just set the scene and kick off with perhaps the most striking use cases that you have in your company of AI, not just how it works, but why it works for you?
Hello, Tim, and thank you so much for having me. What a great intro. Thank you so much. And hello to everyone, wherever you are. In terms of, what we're using AI for and where it has impact, it's across the board, Tim. I think where we've got to is a point where we've pretty much got AI working, improving work processes in everything we do. It's part of the daily life. We've got it as part of our Teams channels, and we've got agentic AI working and helping everyone do better in their day-to-day jobs. However, we're continuing to look at ways we can disrupt and use AI even bigger, and part of the conversation today is going to be around where else we can add value to artificial intelligence.
So the big question is, how do you make sure that your AI, that AI is fit for its intended purpose in your business?
Look, that's the multi-million dollar question if you ask today, billion-dollar question probably. I read a stat recently that talked about 95% of all AI projects not being successful or going past a POC. And I think the key way we've gotten across this is really ensuring that you understand where it's going to be impactful to the business, understanding the business problem that you're trying to solve. It needs to be clearly defined and it needs to be realistic. I feel like the way AI and everyone's AI washing everything that they come across, the goals that everyone's setting and the expectations that we're coming up with are not realistic, and everyone's trying to achieve a particular project with non-realistic goals. Surefire way for failure. So again, it's about having that reality check and really understanding the business problem that you're trying to solve versus just jumping into AI for the sake of AI, because it's not that silver bullet that's going to solve all your problems. It needs to be quite specific, and that's why I think 95% of them tend to fail.
I read a brilliant quote yesterday saying that anybody and everybody will boast they've got AI.
Yeah,
that's really not impressive. What's impressive to boast is that you've got quality data, that is unique to your business and you're leveraging it. That's it, isn't it?
100%, Tim. I think that's without that data, and we spoke about, I think I spoke about it recently, that we started embarking on this journey about data cleansing and having quality data and not that garbage in, garbage out problem about 7-8 years ago, realizing that this was part of, not to say that I had that crystal ball in predicting how things were going to go on in 7 to 8 years, but we actually said that data is going to be the new, and to use a mining analogy, the new gold in a way for us moving forward, right? It was going to be that real asset that we had, and we started working with systems and tools that help leverage our data asset versus just, having sporadic little silos of data that could be good in certain silos, but once you put it together, wasn't as crown jewels as we wanted it to be. So we've got to a point now that we've managed to get that real data asset. It's integrated, it's talking to each other. We've had this proviso from day dot, enter data once, use it across multiple avenues. I'm not going to say that we're 100% of the way there, but we're well and truly on our journey.
I was going to ask, are you there yet? No, we're never there yet, are we?
I don't think you'll ever get there, Tim. Sorry to cut you off. I don't think anyone will ever get there.
Okay, well, so look, how do you check then that the AI you have is working the way you want it in real life situations? How can you double check what parameters do you use?
One of the things we did quite early on, Tim, is ensure that we had the right metrics in place um, to measure the impact of AI and the ROI in general. Where we actually set it out and having what we call these golden gates in the way, like that we actually phased it out very in small chunks, because you know AI and implementing AI is like, the analogy I think that we've used before is, eating an elephant, and the best way to do that is in small bites. But so it's those little bite-sized chunks that we continually go to and then measure them against what we set out to do. So that was really the way we approached this. And having that key that I spoke about, understanding of the business, was critical and still is critical, to measure that impact. Otherwise, you're getting to a point of time where you can keep going down these paths, but if it's not really creating value for the business, there's no point to really do it.
Okay, so we have specific use cases we've sorted, and our data's okay. So we haven't got garbage in and out, and we've got the correct metrics to measure it by. But how can you undertake a course correction if it's not doing what you need it to do? How have you coped with that?
I really dislike using this analogy, but I will use it. It's that fail fast model, right? Like, you need to hedge your bets in a way, but you need to be able to iterate quickly as well. So, you can realize, in what we spoke about, those little golden gates and magical milestones, if you're getting to a point that it isn't successful and you've spent a bit of money, don't continue throwing bad money after good money. So that having those alternatives, answering those if then else questions very quickly yourself at the start. If you get to a certain point and it's not successful, then how do you use what you've done, so it's not wasted? And sometimes you do get to the point, there is a stat, and you would have heard this as well, Tim, that apart from the 95% projects that fail, there's hundreds of projects that you go through that don't see the light of day because they don't go past certain phases. I think that's critical to understand, that when you do embark on a project, if you can use what you've worked on, and we do this with the data continuously, if you can reuse that data, then that's a success because you can use it for the next project.
Yeah, I think in discussing this, I had in my mind something that Santosh from AstraZeneca just before you was saying, that always on the lookout for whether AI applications will introduce new bias and create new risks. So clearly you're on the guard for that. I am assuming it's not actually easy to spot, or is it? And how you obviously need a course correct from that point, but how do you spot these things?
Yeah, it's again really, really tough. So one thing that I've stayed cognizant of over time, and a bias is a reality. You've got to look at these AI models and ensure that when you're testing them out, you are challenging some of that bias. But what I've done in a way is on the other side, when you actually start looking at the solutions and what's coming out, I've ensured that we have diversity on our teams, that are testing these models out, whether it's from a demographic perspective or any other perspectives around there, is ensuring that diversity to actually test out the bias when it comes about, because there's of course things that, as individuals we tend to take for granted and miss, right? Like, that's why boards are diverse, and leadership teams, etc. And that's something that I've put in place, which is not the norm, but I think has added quite a bit of value for us, because when we actually run these tests, there's plenty of things that come out that, might have been missed in terms of just algorithmic modeling exercises. So it's quite interesting that, even though you might not set that up initially, when you actually look at the outcomes, you can test some of that out with a good diversification and plan in place.
It'd be good to talk more on the challenges of implementing AI that actually works. Can we focus firstly on people, because it's too easy and glib perhaps to talk about the tech without talking about the people who have to deal with, who have to change and adapt. So how do you measure the real impact of your AI on your people and bring them through on the journey?
Tim, that's I think in a majority of the scenarios, the critical question that needs to be answered. You know, I always say alignment matters more than the algorithm. You know, and it's getting that team alignment, making sure from a change management perspective, you're addressing the real users of the algorithm and making sure that they're aligned before you go through the implementation. So it's a cultural thing. It's something that, you know, I think as Ausenco, we've had in our ethos from day dot. We build minds that are different, you know, not the cookie cutter approach across the board, you know, tough conditions. And that's an ethos that I've developed with my team as well, to ensure that we're doing things differently. But the critical piece is bringing people along for that journey, ensuring that they're involved. It is the hardest one, you know, culture is the hardest one to bring across. So it is difficult. It's not an easy one because it's not something that in terms of technology folk, we like to address things in ones and zeros. It's not a binary solution. So it is a lot harder to get right. But for the most part, I think we've learned over the last, you know, I've learned over my tenure, you know, what works and what doesn't work and who the right people are and how you bring them along for the journey. We've been working on this, you know, to use the cool terms of today, you know, influencer model across our offices. So we get in some key resources that are influencers in their various regions and various offices, and we've used that quite successfully over time.
I was talking to somebody in the financial services industry a few months ago, and they've empowered, as some companies do, I wonder if you have, they've empowered their staff to write their own codes with mini applications using AI to make their lives better. Do you do that? And is that a way of getting around it, of bringing people within the journey, not just on it?
Yeah, it's another really good point, Tim. We're not there yet. And there's a reason for that. And I think the reason is around security and being able to do it. So if we get to the point where we can put the right guardrails in place, that's definitely something that we would consider. Right now, we're just not at that point. So yes, I'd say we use business intelligence, you know, across, and we empower everyone to use Power BI and those tools across the business. However, that AI and getting to that AI coding level is difficult to give it a tick mark just as yet. But I'm sure once we answer some questions around security, we might get to that point.
Okay. Well, one last question, if I may. It's one of the impossible, unfair questions to ask, which is why it's so great fun to ask it. Just look ahead. What are the big AI trends that you think will be most important for you, your business, and your industry?
Yeah, look, again, pulling out that crystal ball and looking into it, deeply into its eyes. I think the way agentic AI and large language models are going, I'd say it's going to be the typical low risk answer in these situations. Just the evolution and seeing the advent of it over the past year, you know, I don't think we can deny the power that it's going to have across the board in every facet of what we do in our business as well as other businesses. So I think that's just going to continue to evolve and provide a lot of power for organizations such as ours and, you know, your listeners, hopefully.
Sure. Anuj, I don't know where this 20 minutes has gone, but it's gone. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's been brilliant to hear how you've been deploying AI within your company and the challenges and considerations that you've had to make it fit for purpose. So thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you so much, Tim, and thank you everyone for having me.